Brothers, you don't have to sit so far away. Come closer, please. Where are all the people who are complaining about me traveling this summer? Where are they? Huh?
They're starting the lecture.
We're just waiting on brother, just one brother to come, inshallah. So a few things. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin, sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam. Just a few quick announcements. Number one, for the sisters, we're planning on starting a sisters-only halaqah, inshallah, that will be here at the masjid, myself and my wife. If there are any women who are interested in that, please let me know. We want to schedule it at a time that's convenient for as many women as possible, inshallah ta'ala. So, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had a women's only halaqah that he would do because the women complained that the men were taking most of his time. And so he set aside a day just for them. So we'll be doing that here as well. Again, my wife and I, Mustada Ruqayya Yaqub, are planning a women's only halaqah here at the masjid. Any sisters who are interested, please see me, because we want to get an idea of the best time, the best day and time of the week. The best day and time of the week for the class. And we want to make sure that we cover topics that are of interest to the women in the community, at all levels. It's open to all sisters, no matter what your background is, no matter what your level of knowledge or what your level of practice is, inshallah ta'ala. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And then the second announcement is that next Friday, if you wear Jumu'ah, or if you've been looking at the flat screen, you're aware of this, we will have a special guest, and we'll have a special event. The internationally renowned poet Baraka Blue. His name is Ahmed James. He's a white American who embraced Islam about 15, 20 years ago. He's a great lover of Rumi. Many of you know Rumi. We've started a Rumi circle here. He started the Rumi Center for Spirituality and the Arts. And he will be coming here to recite his poetry and to lecture. So you don't want to miss that, inshallah ta'ala. Please spread the word. And we will also be having Mecca books. Athar Jatoy from Mecca Books will be here next Friday as well. Some of you know him from the Al-Maqasid retreats. They'll be bringing books for sale that we're going to be using in our gift shop, inshallah ta'ala. So we hope that you spread the word. Bismillah. So let us begin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. We begin in the name of God, the unconditionally loving, the compassionate Redeemer, the merciful benefactor, the merciful Redeemer. We ask that Allah bless and grant peace to our leader, Muhammad, and his family and his companions, and that he grant them abundant and everlasting peace. We ask that Allah Ta'ala increase us in knowledge. We ask that Allah Ta'ala benefit us by what we learn, and that Allah Ta'ala cause us to learn that which will benefit us, and that Allah increase us in actions and in deeds and in knowledge that is accepted by Him Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We intend to, it is always important to start with your intention, whatever you do, whether you are in a class, whether you are going to work, whether you're starting your business, whether you're establishing salah, whether you're giving charity, always, always, always renew your intention. Renew your intention. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? What am I seeking? What do I want? So we begin after the Basmalah and Alhamdulillah, the Hamdallah, and Salat ala Nabi by saying, Oh Allah, we intend to learn and to teach. We intend, repeat with me, Oh Allah, we intend to learn and to teach, to benefit and receive benefit, to give advantage and to receive advantage, and to encourage holding firmly to the book of Allah and the path of His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to call to guidance and to invite to goodness, seeking by that the face of Allah, nearness to Allah, the reward of Allah, and the bounty of Allah. So my dear brother Ustad Yusuf is going to be reading, and then I'm going to give commentary. So just to, some of you may be here for the first time. I see a few new faces. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have been going through this really important book. It's called The Lives of Man in English. That's not the actual title. The actual title is The Path of Reflection and Admonition regarding the years that pass over the life of the human being. Sabil al-Ittikal wal-I'tibar. And it is by the great scholar Imam Abdullah al-Haddad, who lived in what is now southern Yemen, in the valley of Hadramaut. You've heard me talk about them before. He comes from that same family that I mentioned before, that is responsible, by the grace of Allah, for 1/3 of the Muslim world embracing Islam. They took Islam everywhere, one family. Right? And if you meet anyone who their last name is Al-Haddad, and they're from Yemen, I'm not talking about Al-Haddad from Syria or Lebanon, or Al-Saqaf, or Al-Attas, or Al-Mihdab, or Al-Jifri, or Al-Attas, then they're from this family. And Imam al-Haddad was blind, but that did not stop him from being the author of many, many, many books. In fact, the way he would talk and the way he would teach, you could think he could see everything around him. If you read about his life, it's amazing. It's fascinating. And so these books that we're reading, he was dictating these books. You have to understand, when we're reading them, this was coming out of his heart, out of his soul. And he wrote this book to give us guidance on how to live our lives, to give us a map of how to approach Allah in every phase of development. And I wish I had this book. I wish I had the book, but I wish I had studied it more before I got married, before I had children. But it's like any other book. It's just like the Quran. The longer you live, the more you understand. Right? The longer you live, the deeper you're able to go. So this is how this book is. It's a book that you can read over and over and over and over again, and you will always learn new things. So the last time we had this class, and anytime I teach now, I'm just going to focus on this book. I'm not going to go back and forth to other books. We're going to stay with this until we finish, inshallah ta'ala. We are in the section of Ad-Dunya. We are in the section of the lower world. Ad-Dunya means the lower world, the lower life. Dunya means low. As opposed to Al-Akhirah, which means the everlasting world. Dar al-Akhirah is the everlasting abode. And so in this lower world, Ad-Dunya, we have one life out of those 5 lives. So Drake was wrong. Okay. He's the only one who laughed. Okay. So Drake is an artist. He said, he made the phrase popular, you only live once. YOLO. Your children know, don't worry. You may not know, but your children know. You only live once, YOLO. So if you say YOLO, that's a code. You don't live once, you live 5 times. This life is just one of them. And it starts with your birth. It starts with, in fact, one of my teachers said, if we were really intelligent and we really understood, we would understand that our life here actually begins when the angel blows the spirit into the fetus, into the embryo. That's really when you should be celebrating your birthday, because that's when life really begins. And we went over this hadith the last time, if you remember. Those of you who were here, we went over this long hadith that is authentic, where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam describes the different stages of embryonic development. The first 40 days, the second 40 days, then the next 40 days. After 120 days, the beginning of the second trimester. He said that an angel comes and blows a spirit into this embryo. And this is usually for most women, this is when they start to feel the baby kicking, right? They start to feel the baby moving. The end of the first trimester, beginning of the second trimester. And so that's where we stopped. And today, we're going to begin looking at childhood. We're going to begin looking at the time of the sabi. Well, that's the word in Arabic for child, sabi. Right? So the infant is called tifl, and the child, after about 2 years, is called sabi. Now, sabi means someone who's enthusiastic. They have a lot of energy. Isn't that how they are? They have lots of energy. We wish we had that energy now, don't we? You see your children, young children, you see your grandchildren, and you say, subhanAllah, they just keep going all day. Yeah? So in Arabic, we call that sababa. Yeah? That's the time of the sibyan. Okay? Energetic, lots of enthusiasm. So this is the time that we're going to talk about, inshallah ta'ala, and Ustad Yusuf is going to be reading. Jazakumullah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Man thus remains in his mother's belly until God wills him to come forth. This is the first part of his life in this world, dunya. God the Exalted has mentioned the beginning of this life in this book, stating how man moves from stage to stage and from one condition to the next. The verse is 22:5. And afterward we bring you forth as infants, then give you growth that you attain your full strength. And among you are those who die, and others who are brought back to the worst time of life, so that after having had knowledge, they know nothing at all. That's the end of one verse. The next verse, 40:67. Then that you attain full strength, and then that you become old, though some among you die before, and that you reach an appointed term, that you may perhaps understand.
So this here, brothers and sisters, Allah Ta'ala is giving us an overview of the life of the human being. Okay? It begins with weakness and vulnerability, and it ends with weakness and vulnerability. This is the cycle of life and death. And if you understand, and this is why it's so critical for young people to understand what we're learning. It's a pity that our young people are not here in the masjid right now. Because it helps them, it will help them to plan and to appreciate where they are right now. So we have to find ways of communicating with them. So write these two ayat down. Surah 22, ayah 5. Surah 22, ayah 5. Surah 40, ayah 67.
And there are many more verses relating to this. In this second life, people move from the state of childhood to puberty, then to youth, to young adulthood, to maturity and seniority, then to such decrepitude and senility as God may will, all in accordance with what God has said in His book.
So these are the stages: childhood to puberty, to Tufulia, and from there you go to bulugh, to puberty, which is the beginning of adulthood. In Islam, once a girl has her first menstrual cycle, she is a woman. And so as a mother, as a grandmother, you should prepare her for her responsibilities as a woman. And as soon as a boy has his first wet dream, his first nocturnal emission, he's a man. And so the community of men need to prepare them for the rights and the responsibilities of rujula, of manhood, before that happens. This is called rites of passage. This is something that used to be done in many of our communities. Right? So from puberty you go to youth. And youth is a blessed time, the time of shabab, the shab. And youth is the time that's very delicate, especially for young men. If you don't enter young men into youth, they'll be like the shabab we hear about on the news. They'll destroy things. Like the shabab all over the world, where they're not elder men, wise men, strong men who mentor them. They will destroy. They will gravitate to whatever makes the most noise and whatever has the most power. This is the nature of boys. And the crisis that we have, not only in America, this is a world crisis. A world crisis of boys who are out of control. Boys who are killing us. Boys who are killing us. Most of the so-called terrorists in the world. And I'm not just talking about Muslims, I'm talking about even the ones here in America. Most of them, most of these shooters that go into schools, boys. But it's us men that have a responsibility to bring these boys into adulthood. When we neglect that responsibility, it haunts us. And we are living in that nightmare right now. We are living in that nightmare today. And then from Shababa, we go to Kuhula. So this youth lasted to how old? 39 years old. Some say 35. Others say 39 years old. That's the time of youth. Around 35, your body starts to decline. Some of us start to gray. You start to hurt in places where you didn't do anything. You just start hurting, right? You start aching. You can't move as fast as you used to. You don't have the energy you used to. Usually happens sometime between 33, 37 years of age, right? And this is where the human being begins to decline physically. So really, we need to train our youth to understand the age between 25 and 35. This is your opportunity to build. This is your opportunity to learn. This is the best time of your life in terms of your physical and intellectual ability. The brain, neuroscientists teach us that the brain stops growing at 25. Girls, maybe a little earlier, 23. The women mature faster than the boys. Right? Of course, there's a wisdom for this. 25 to 35. This is a time that should not be wasted on video games. This is a time that shouldn't be wasted on entertainment. Maybe 5%, 10% of their life should be entertainment. But the rest, this is the time for them to build, to expand their network.
Yeah. You said that youth are attracted to
youth that are not initiated, that are not brought into adulthood. Men, young boys particularly. The women get it. Yeah, the way their bodies work and their responsibilities that come with childbirth, and they have to mature. They have to, right? And also the way the world is designed, because women are oppressed largely. They are disenfranchised. They're exploited by men. There's a greater sense of their vulnerability. But young men, if they don't have men, wise men, strong men, knowledgeable men, successful men to mentor them, they think that their physical power and their street smarts, right, or their intellectual abilities can get them out of any situation. And they gravitate to what's fast, whatever is the fastest thing, whatever is the loudest thing, whatever leader appears to be the most authoritarian. They grab. That's why you have all these young boys following Trump, right? Young boys. And these are white supremacists. You saw them in Charlottesville a year ago, but they're not wearing hoods and with burning crosses. They have polo shirts, right? They look very cool. Look very cool. But they're saying the same thing David Duke says. They're saying the same thing. But they gravitate to authoritarian symbols. If you want to know more about this, read the works or watch the videos of Father Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R. He has a video called Why Males Need Initiation. It is very good. It's in 4 parts. And I've even spoken to this with our Christian brothers and sisters, our Jewish brothers and sisters, even the police department here. They all say they're all facing the same problem. Same issue. It doesn't matter if the boys are suburban or if they're in the inner city. It's the same problem. Jewish, Muslim, atheist, same problem. When the men don't come together, as a group, you have chaos, you have violence, you have disillusion. And then from Shababa, you enter into what's called Kuhula, right? Maturity, which lasts from the age of 40 up until 59. And then you enter the age of Shaykhuha, where you become a sheikh. If you're not a sheikh because you graduated from Azhar, if you're not a sheikh because you graduated from some university, you're a sheikh by default. Once you hit 60, we'll call you a sheikh. You earned it. You earned it. You're a sheikh. Okay? And that's not, this is a very Western thing. You have young people now, they don't want to be called youth. If you call them a youth, they think you're putting them down. You have older people, if you call them sheikh or sheikha or elder, they think you're disrespecting them. Right? That's a very Western thing. Our ancestors, traditional people, they took pride in being called an elder. When you're an elder, that means you have respect, and you have an authority, and you have a word and a wisdom that is listened to, whether you are male or female. But we live in this upside down world where we have elders who are trying to be young. Right? They dress like children. But if you look at pictures 100 years ago, the children would dress like adults. Now the adults dress like children.
When a human being is born, he begins to scream, which is due to his being stabbed by Satan. Only Jesus, son of Mary, may God bless him, and his mother, upon them be peace, escaped this. For God guarded them against it. For God guarded them against it because of the prayers of Mary's mother, Imran's wife. I seek your protection for her and for her offspring from Satan to repudiate. This also finds mention in a hadith. Iblis arrived to stab, but his thrust came up against the protective veil.
This is called the ladza to shaitan. He stabs the human being when they're born, and that's why they cry. Except if Allah protects the child. And the only two that we know of that have been protected, according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, is Sayyidina Isa, Jesus Christ, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, and his mother, the Blessed Virgin Mary. And this is because of the dua. So learn his dua. Say his dua. Say his dua before you have relations with your spouse. Even if you're done having children, still say it. Because every time you are with your spouse, there is some risk that Allah Ta'ala gives you. And we know this from the dua of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. إِنِّي أُعِيدُهَا بِكَ وَذُرِيَّتَهَا مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. Say this prayer. Indeed, I seek your protection for her and her offspring. It's in Ali Imran 36, chapter 3, 36. Say this dua when you're having relations, before you have relations with your spouse. In the Quran. Surah 3, Ali Imran, ayah 36. Imran was a prophet. Imran was the father of Mary, alayhi salam. He was a great man. Ali Imran was the family of Imran that Allah blessed this earth with when the other Israelites, when the rest of Bani Israel were Ali Kharban, when they were in ruins. They were just Muslim because they were the Muslims of their time. Muslim in name. You know what Imran means? One who is erect, one who is standing upright, one who is strong. He was strong when the other Israelites were weak. Allah blessed the world with this family. Imran, Hanan, the mother of Mary. Right? Hannah, Hannah, not Hannah. Hannah, Imran, Hannah, Mary, Zachariah, Elizabeth, Zachariah, Elizabeth, and then their son, John, Yahya. They were holding the deen of Allah Ta'ala at a time when others had left it.
It is a sunnah which we are commanded to follow, to give the call to prayer in the right ear of a newborn baby, and the iqamah in its left ear, to remind the child of its primordial nature, the fitrah, according to which God has made people, namely Tawheed. The Messenger of God, upon whom be blessings and peace, said, "Every newborn baby has, when born, his fitrah. It is his parents who make of him a Jew, a Christian, or a Zoroastrian." And God the Exalted said, "So set your face to the religion, as a man by nature upright, the nature, fitrah, given by God in which he has created mankind." Surah 30, verse 30.
So the sunnah, or the path, the word sunnah means path. The path of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is to call the adhan in the right ear of the child as soon as it's born. As soon as it comes out of its mother, the baby should be given to the father. It's very important. Let me say it this way. Our ancestors, Muslims, were very careful about who touched the baby when the baby was first born. This is a new spirit that's come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and been put in a body. These are its first moments. And if the black stone can be changed by people touching it who've committed sins, what do you think about a child, a baby? Do we think about this? And so we respect physicians, we respect doctors. I don't care if the doctor is a Muslim, a Jew, or an atheist, they deserve our respect. They save lives. They treat injuries, doctors do. But brothers and sisters, we have a responsibility as Muslims to protect the innocence and the purity of this new life. Important. And so do your best. Do your very best to have a Muslim obstetrician. Have a Muslim midwife. Right? This is something that's being revived now. Right? We used to call them the Qabila. Right? The Qabila was the midwife who received. It used the whole affair of birth used to be in the hands of women, even here in America, just women. They had women doctors, women midwives. Men were outside. Now what's happened? It's been taken over by men, and just terrible things are done to women in the maternity ward. Terrible things are done to them. The women are just childbirth is something that is natural. Childbirth is something that should be spiritual. Childbirth is something where there should be a bond between the mother and the child. And the current system that we use, many of us use, it goes against all of that. The child is taken away from the mother, right? Other people spend more time with the baby in the first 5 minutes than the mother does. Sometimes the first hour, depending on. Now, if there's the mother's life is in danger or the child's life is in danger, then yes, there is a need for intervention. But if it's a healthy birth, the mother's healthy, the baby's healthy, no complications, why are you taking the baby away? The father should be called in. And if the father is not available, one of the other men, and if no man is available, then you, sisters, you need to call the adhan. in the right ear of the child, and in the iqama in the left ear. Don't think it's just something for men. There's no hadith that says it's only the man that does it, that can only do it. This is a protection, it's a reminder, you're downloading something into the child. Right? Like our scholars say, when we're born, there's an adhan and iqamah, but no salah, no prayer. And when you die, there's a prayer, but no adhan and no iqamah. So it's as if they complete each other. At the beginning of your life, your father or some adult in your family whisper the adhan and the iqamah into your ears, and then at the end of your life, the salah is done. That's for that adhan and that iqamah. Very beautiful. And so our job, our responsibility as parents is to protect the innocent nature, the fitrah of the child, which, as the Imam says, what is the fitrah? It is the natural nature, it is the disposition, it is that primordial essence that's inside each and every one of us that naturally inclines towards the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, towards accepting the oneness, the unicity of the divine, the unicity of God, the oneness of Allah, and receiving guidance from Allah. This is the human being's nature. We used to say back in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s that we are Muslim by nature. That's what it means. The fitrah of the human being. And the responsibility of the parents and the whole family and the community, the Muslim community, the masjid, is to preserve the fitrah of the child. To make sure that it is protected from any damage, any pollution, as much as possible. And so our masjids need to be designed with that in mind. How do we preserve the child's fitrah? Our schools, our homes, all of our institutions, our toys, the food we give the child. You need to always ask, is this preserving the fitrah or is it perverting the fitrah? Is it damaging the fitrah? How you speak to the child. If you yell at the child every day, you're damaging the fitrah. But if you're smiling at the child, you discipline them. You still discipline them, but with firmness that's mixed with love and mercy, you preserve the fitrah. Each child has his own fitrah. And our schools, unfortunately, many of our schools, we don't respect the fitrah Allah gives that child. We want every child to be like this idea we have of the perfect student. And this really does damage to the boys. The boys, you think boys want to sit for 6-7 hours a day in one place? And you only get 30 minutes of recess? No, you're harming the fitrah. What did the Arabs see? The Arabs, even though they lived 1,000 years ago, they understood. What did they do with their young boys and girls? What would they do? 2 years old, what would they do? Send them out. Why? Freedom. Freedom. Language. Health. So they can have the freedom of the desert. So they can learn the Arabic language in its purest form, away from Mecca. So they can develop healthy bodies, living in the harshness of the desert. We do the opposite. We do the opposite. We buy all these toys, we put them behind bars as soon as they're born. We call it a crib. So from the time the child is conceived, they see bars. And then, how do you preserve the fitrah? Right? So, I don't want anyone, don't think that, what can I do now? I raise my children. It's too late. It's never too late. It's never too late. And we're going to, as we read through this, you'll see that it is never too late. You always have a chance to repair. And even if I messed up, even if you messed up, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and Allah's greatness is greater than any damage you did. Allah is Al-Jabbar. He can repair whatever we messed up, okay, with our children. So we'll be talking about all of that inshallah.
It is an absolute duty for both parents to protect their child from everything that might distort his or her fitrah, to raise him or her well, protect him or her from evil nurses, and seriously strive to do these things. For as a hadith says, suckling alters nature.
Breastfeeding, suckling, rada'ah, breastfeeding changes the nature of that child. So if the woman, so look at, again, I don't want to be negative, but I just want us to understand the crisis that we are in and how much we need this book. But not just to read the book, we need to change our culture. We need to change our institutions. We need to change our approach to childhood development. Okay? And you will start, you're finding now, even among Western psychologists, they're corroborating much of this with the data and the studies that they're doing. So our scholars knew, and the early Muslims were very careful about this. They wouldn't let any woman nurse the child. It had to be a woman who did her 5 prayers. It had to be, if you don't pray, so if a woman doesn't pray, and she's nursing her child, don't blame the child when the child is now 14, 15, 16, and they don't pray. The very cells of their body were nourished by milk that came from someone who did not pray. They would always be careful about making sure that if the mother couldn't nurse, some women don't have enough milk, right? Or they're sick, that the woman who nursed the child was a woman who was intelligent, a woman who was pious, a woman who only ate halal food, not who went to, Pizza Hut and bought pepperoni pizza, or went to Arby's, or, Longhorn Steakhouse and bought the T-bone steak and said what the Sheikh said, that it's halal if I say Bismillah. Right? And because of that, it produced a different kind of human being. You are what you eat. You are what you eat. So if you raise a child on sacred food that's been blessed, then the child will have a natural, you preserve the fitrah of the child. So this is what the Shaykh is talking about here. And this is something that we cannot overemphasize.
In his or her heart, they must plant a reverence for the symbols of religion and for the things God has made sacrosanct, the love of goodness, the practice of it, and of its practitioners. They must encourage and exhort him or her to do good, and discourage him or her from and make hateful to them evil, the practice of it, and those who practice it. They must also uproot love for the world and its pleasures from the heart, together with the inclination to enjoy it, and they must neither assist him or her in enjoying the dunya, nor render it easy for him or her, for that would be harming him or her. I'm just laughing because I'm sure. It says him like 15 times, so I'm going to be him or her, and not realizing how many times it's saying him. So, for that would be harming him or her, and would cause him or her to diverge from the straight way.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. More important than your child memorizing lots of Quran is them seeing you read the Quran. Don't just come and drop your children off with Shaykh Isa. Let them see you studying with Shaykh Isa. Big difference. Let them see you reading the Quran at home. Let them see you weeping at home, not here in the masjid. Taraweeh. It's easy to cry when you're in a big room and the Imam's voice is beautiful and everyone is crying and dua qunut. It's easy. Let your children see you at home crying. That has more of an impact on them. Let them see you weep in the prayer. That is more impactful for them than you telling them, pray, pray, pray. Did you do your prayer? Did you do your prayer? Let them see the prayer change you. Let them see the prayer transform you. That means more to them than you shouting at them, threatening them with Jahannam, with Saqar, Haram, Alayk, and all of these things. Let them see how the prayer has made a difference in your life. Otherwise, you're no different than anyone else. Right? Let them see that you love Allah and that you love the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Not just that you love Islam. We like to say this, don't we? At many of our Islamic conferences, you hear this, a lot of books, love Islam, love Islam, love Islam. But very rarely you hear people say, love Allah. Love Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Love the family of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Love Ahlul Bayt. Love the Ummah. Love humanity. Rarely do we hear this, but that is what you find in the Quran. That's what you find in the Hadith. Love Iman. That's what you find in the Quran. Ubiba ilaykum al-Iman. Hababa ilaykum al-Iman. So, my dear brothers and sisters, we're going to end here, inshallah, and take any questions or any comments. This section, so we're half through this section, inshallah, on childhood. We're going to, inshallah, after we finish this section, we're going to look at, during this section, we're going to look at what happens in the first 7 years of life, what happens at puberty, and what happens, inshallah ta'ala, before the child reaches maturity. And so this age of youth, it starts at the time when most children, usually by the age of 12, the youth starts, inshallah ta'ala. Some later, some a little earlier. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So we asked Allah, so one of my teachers said, if you neglected to do these things, when your child is asleep, this is not a hadith by the way, so you don't have to believe it, right? You can take it or leave it, it's up to you. If you neglected to do all these things, you didn't call the adhan, you didn't call the iqama, maybe you hit your child every day, right? You yelled at them, SubhanAllah. You didn't pray, all of these things. A lot of Muslims, they don't start praying till later on, 20, 30 years old, some 40 years old. They start praying, they start coming to the masjid, change their lives around. They said when your child is sleeping, even your adult children, you go to them, call the adhan in their right ear, call the iqama in the left ear, or they sleep. It's not hadith. This is just what some of when they're sleeping, whisper in their ear, I love you, forgive me. And if you don't have the courage to say it to them when they're awake, if you don't have the courage to say it to them while they're awake, or the humility, say it to them while they're asleep, but say it in their ear so it goes directly in, subconscious. Forgive me. Forgive me. And there's other du'as, I'll share them with you. There's other du'as that some of them come from the Prophet ﷺ, some of them come from the Sahaba and the Salaf, things that you should say into the ears of your children when they're not acting in a way that is befitting, befitting of someone who has reverence for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What happens? So we'll stop there, inshallah ta'ala. I don't want to make it long. I want to keep it short and leave time for your comments and your questions. And, please don't hesitate to share your story. I'm still learning myself. I'm still learning. I'm no expert. I learn something new about my children every day. Really, I'm serious, fatherhood, I always tell people, fatherhood is a tariqah. It's a spiritual path. Motherhood is a tariqah. You don't know how much patience you're capable of till you have children. You don't know how much love you're capable of till you have children. And you don't know how much you can be hurt by another human being until you have children. Yeah. And I remember when I had my first daughter, have you ever seen that brother from Texas, Mercy Slaughter? You ever seen the video where he says dhikr into the goat, then the goat just lies up and says, take my life. You ever see that? It's amazing. So when I lived in Houston, during Eid al-Adha, we used to go to his farm to slaughter, right? We used to go to his farm to slaughter the udhiyah, the qurbani. And his daughter was there. Now she's probably a grown woman. This was 2001, 2002, so this is 16 years ago. So now she was probably 9 years old back then. She grew up on the farm, seeing her father kill cows, and so blood meant nothing to her, right? She was used to it. And I remember him telling me when he saw me with my oldest, Maria was a baby back then. He said, "Girls, children, you have to love them. You will love them so much you won't realize you'll have love that you didn't even know you had." He said, "But they'll break your heart." That's what he told me. He said, "They will break your heart." I didn't understand. What do you mean, break my heart? Right? Now I understand. Well, alhamdulillah. So, please forgive us. We're going to work on getting the wireless mics. We don't have them. So if you have a question or a comment, please speak up. We are recording this, and we want the people who are listening to hear. Maybe we might repeat the question or the comment as well. Jazakumullah khairan. Alhamdulillah. Any questions, any comments?
I have a question. Do you have any specific recommendations as to everyday activities that you can do with your kids, which will kind of, be an example of what you just mentioned in terms of them seeing you and seeing the example you're setting? Like, for example, maybe prayer in congregation or anything of that nature. Do you have specific recommendations?
The children should know that Islam in your life is not wishy-washy. You're not one way at the masjid and then at home you're a different way. Right? So sometimes, let me put it like this. What you want is to be the same way. When you're at the masjid, you pray on time. When you're at the masjid, you pray at the beginning of the time, don't we? Right? Do the same thing at home. Don't wait till after the Super Bowl. Right? Don't wait till the commercial break. It's easier now. Now we have TiVo and we can record. And 20 years ago, we would wait till the commercial break. Okay, let's pray quickly. No. Let the children see you pray. And even if they don't join you, you pray. And don't emotionally blackmail them. Right? If you don't pray, no lunch. If you don't pray, no game. Don't do that. Don't do that with the deen. Don't do that with the deen. They will resent it. When they're young, you can control them with that. But as they get older, they'll come up with all kinds of ways to get what they want. And then they'll do the same thing to you. Don't make the deen something that is about control. Islam should be about iman, about love. And if you want to get a human being to obey Allah, you first have to cultivate iman. It's not easy. But this is what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did. The companion said, كَانَ يُعَلِّمُنَا الْإِيمَانِ قَبْلَ الْقُرْآنِ. He used to teach us faith before the Quran. Now we teach the Quran first. How do you teach faith? That's a whole, we need another hour for that. Another hour. So another thing is teach the children about the power of prayer, like dua. You know, like Shaykh Mendes, a great scholar from Morocco, he lived hundreds of years ago. He said his grandmother, when he would get hungry, he would say, "Grandma or Jaddu or whatever, I'm hungry." So she would already have food made, and she would say, "Subhanallah, I'm hungry too. What are we going to do? Let's make dua. Let's pray to Allah Ta'ala and ask Him for food." So she would teach him to pray for his needs. In simple language for a baby, you know, a boy, young boy. And then after they made dua, they would go looking around the house for the food. And then, of course, she hid it somewhere. And then they would find the food. She'd say, "Allahu Akbar, no food." So you have to be creative, is what I'm saying. Right? And then, you know, teaching them to give charity. You don't always be the one who gives charity. Give them money. Say, "Here, take $1, take $10. Go put it in the box. Go give it to that homeless man." Teach them, by your own example. And then, most importantly, read the Quran with them. You know, our Christian brothers and sisters, they have all these, Bible, children's Bibles. Have you seen these? I mean, really, has anyone seen the children's Bibles? Go to Barnes & Noble. You don't even have to go to a Christian bookstore. Just go to Barnes & Noble. Very nice. My first Bible. It's not the whole Bible. They just take sections, very colorful. You don't have to make images. Just make it colorful, make it in writing, break it down into their language. I'm giving to them. We have more Islamic books like this now, but not enough. Not enough. And the quality is not the same. Yeah. So Yahya Enric has some things like that. But again, the quality needs to always be improved. I mean, I already want him, Yahya Enric. No. Yeah. I know he's in DC area. Yeah. Okay, mashallah.
He started it for his student, now he's doing it.
Exactly.
A lot of decided to ask him to speak
Exactly.
Yes.
It's a good series. If you don't have that, it's a really good series. It's called Ilyas and the Duck. Ilyas and the Duck. Right, so get it for your children, get it for your grandchildren.
Books.
Yeah, books.
His children do it. He comes every once in a while to come in like one.
Yeah, children's books.
Teaches the Islamic concepts. He actually started it for his own children
Yeah.
at home. And he thought maybe other people can do it.
Yeah, very good. Yes.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. A couple of reflections, if I may.
Yes.
One is on modeling etiquettes and interpersonal relationships. And one of the wisdoms of being around relatives is that children can see brother and sister, adult brother and adult sister. So if my sister did this, I can deal with my sister and interact with my sister. And then my daughter sees how to interact with her brother. And then more importantly, when I deal with my parents, then that models for the children how they should be with them. So rather than one asking your child, you should respect me as your father, you show them when your father comes, how you revere him. And so this is one
And that also goes with the interaction between husband and wife. Right. You show your daughters what kind of husband to look for by how you treat your wife. Right.
And the other one was when you were talking about age being honored. You know how we say now, Andy 16 Sana, Andy 17 Sana. I have this many years. So the idea of age being an asset.
Ahmed Abdurrahman, he's a finance man. So he's always talking about assets. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, so age is an asset, absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully we want you to teach your wealth course here, inshallah ta'ala. Now, Shaykh.
Since you said we could use some of the examples that might benefit, the big challenge is always between your own values as a Muslim in your home and the values of the immediate environment. And since circumstances make it so much that we are in the minority, we live in a block of flats that are likely to be the only Muslim family. If we live in a big environment, we are likely to be the only Muslim poor on that street. So you have your value system, but you are contesting with the value because your children are like hungry, you go pick up for here and there. What do? You try to show them the way, or you let them experience it and let them actually bounce it back in such a way that they can see that this is better than we do.
So the question was, in a society where Muslims are in the minority, where you're really going against the grain, morally, ethically, in terms of your values and principles, do you let your children experience the wider society and discover for themselves, hit the dead end on their own, sometimes even hit bottom on their own, or do you protect them, do you keep them away? It depends on what age they are. There's only so much you can do when they get beyond the age of 16, 17. It's only so much you can do. Secondly, it depends on your perspective about being a minority. One of our mistakes is that we do not take a Quranic view of our community. We do not take a prophetic view of our community. Let me explain what that means. Allah refers to primarily Jews and Christians. It was later expanded to include other religions as Ahlul Kitab. Ahlul Kitab. And we translate that as people of the book. But really, what is Ahl? If you were to say to any Arab, what is Ahl? Ahl means what? Family. Al-Kitab refers to what? Scripture. That's what it literally means. It's a better translation of book. It's the family of Scripture. Allah refers to them over and over again, Ahlul Kitab, to show our relationship with them. That they are people of revelation, and we are people of revelation. We are one big family of revelation. They're part of our community. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in the Medina Charter that he wrote, the social contract between him and the Jews and the Christians and the Arab idolaters and the Muslims of Medina, he called them one ummah. But we don't see ourselves as one ummah, do we? With the Jews and Christians. He called them one ummah because they all chose to live under his authority and his leadership. Even though they had different religions, he said, we are one ummah. What is for us is for you. What is for you is for us. What is against us is against you. And what is against you is against us. We protect each other. We need to take this same attitude with the millions of Jews and Christians and Hindus and Buddhists who share our values. When you do that, you stop being a minority of about, they say we're about what, 3 million people in America. Some say 6, 10 million most. Depends on what poll you go by. But they say the population of Muslims in America is anywhere from 3 to 10 million people. I know Muslims who love visiting Salt Lake City, Utah. Because Mormons, you can say what you want about their belief, their aqidah, but the environment, what you're talking about, their values, they are very much in line with what we teach. So when we align ourselves with those communities, it makes it easy. Look at the Amish. We're not as extreme as them with regards to electricity, but they share a lot of our values. Orthodox Jews, Reformed Jews, conservative Jews, they share a lot of our values. So I think if we start to think outside the box of the Muslim community, we will see that we actually have more allies. And then secondly, one thing that the Amish do, and the Jewish community does, they're very serious about rites of passage. The Amish have its name, I don't remember the name, maybe one of you remembers it. That they have a time when the children reach 16, 17 years old. Oh, thank you. Say it again. Broom Springer? Thank you. It's your son. Broom Springer. They let them go and experience the world. They actually tell them, leave the community. Go get a job, go live by yourself, go see the world. And they give them about 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. They can do all the things that were forbidden in the Amish community. And within 7 years, they need to come back and they need to take their oath and take their vow. If they don't come back within 7 years, they're out of the community. They're considered to be out of the community. They can always come back, of course. So, once they reach a certain age, if you did your job, from the time they were 0 to 17, then you should just trust that they will make the right choice. You should always give them guidance, always encourage them, always warn them if they're about to go over a cliff, always warn them. But, after 17, 18 years old, after 20, 21, your primary role as a coach, it's love and compassion. You give them guidance, you always stand up for what's right, always bring them back to the Quran, but you can't protect them from the world. And some children, their path is to go into the world, is to even face tremendous evil and experience evil. And inshallah come out of it so that they can help others. Sometimes Allah chooses our children for them. And that is heartbreaking when that's your child. When your child ends up on drugs, when your child ends up in a gang, when your child ends up in jail. And then if you go to England now, the jails are full of Muslims. Mostly Pakistanis. Right? Mostly. Boys who don't have mentors. Right? And our Somali brothers and sisters are right behind them. Really, and especially here in America. It's very sad. It's very sad. But that's some of the things. And my hope is to, there's some other things that are on my list, my to-do list, but it's one of the things I want us to do at this masjid, is really have a mentorship program. It's for young men and for young women, inshallah. Now, Shaykh Wassim.
Well, I was going to mention something along those lines in terms of mentorship. You said
in the fact that they will be able to go out and rather than be influenced by the greater society, they will influence this greater society. Because if that's neglected, instead of they're starting out, not protected, and then they're going to give in to those desires and everything. I mean, they should know, right? They should know all of these things about the human condition. Understand? That's what we talk about now. We talk about shaitan. All of those areas, understand, is something that should be equipped with, so that they be, in a position to recognize, understand, whatever desires, whatever attractions, understand, the thing that come to them, and be able to discern, understand, whether they're good for them or harm. So, would you say, understand, that not enough attention is given to, prepare the youth, understand, to meet these statements, considering the fact that we know the kind of environment they're in?
The question was, when I say that there's not enough protection and preparation given to the youth, so that when they reach adulthood, they're not influenced by the wider society, but rather they influence the wider society. I would agree. And it's not enough, Sheikh Abdullah, another thing is, it's not enough for us to tell our children, don't smoke weed. Don't drink vodka. Don't, fornicate. We need to equip them with knowledge. What is vodka? What is it? What is weed? What is it? What is it at a molecular level? What is it culturally? What is it historically? What is it? How does it affect you? What are the symptoms? How do you know? And if you don't know this, one of the things my wife told me is one of the sisters who's from this community, West Windsor, she told her that she's from this community, lived here a long time, been through the school system. Drug dealers target the children of Indo-Pakistani Muslims and Hindus from India. Why? Why do they target them? Why do you think? Sister Sumaya?
Didn't have the money.
Yes. Because they know they have money. They know they have disposable income. And they need a clientele that they can depend on. So they go after Muslim children, Hindu children particularly. We need to let our children know that. Like Little Red Riding Hood. You know, little story of Little Red Riding Hood? Her mother told her, don't talk to anybody. We have to warn the children. There's a wolf, they're wolves. One of my relatives, he, mashallah, his mother has made Hajj probably as many years as I'm alive. She's made Hajj, I can't even count the times, right? Beautiful woman. The father, very successful, but they didn't prepare him. So you know what happened? He got around the wrong group of friends. He started smoking marijuana. Thought it was harmless. Muslim, did his prayers, all this. One day, and this was about 18 years ago. One day, he bought some marijuana that was laced. You know what that means, laced? Mixed with LSD. Mixed with acid, chemical. It's a psychotropic chemical. He has been suffering from hallucinations ever since. Before that, he was going to school, he was an excellent student. Now, he doesn't even have a college degree. And he's in his 30s. Messed his life up completely. he still takes medication to this day. Just one mistake. You know, we have to prepare, we have to protect them with knowledge. Not just saying that's haram, stay away from them. For some children, that's enough. But for a lot of them today, they've been so, they're so savvy, they've been exposed to so much. Just saying it's haram, it's not enough. But once you explain to them, the history, the science, the culture behind it, and the effects it has, and you show the people, this is someone who's been taking meth for 2 years. This is the before picture, this is the after picture. These are the withdrawal symptoms. When you read the withdrawal symptoms for meth, it's scary stuff. You become suicidal. It's like a drug that won't even let you quit. Just trying to stop it could kill you. I mean, very serious stuff. When you educate youth about this, and you have to start really, maybe in middle school, if not earlier. I know some educators that say you need to start in 4th or 5th grade, because they come at them in middle school. Now, it's not like when we were I'm a little older than you, but when I was in high school, they would come at you, you want some marijuana? You want some weed? Very different. Oh yeah, big difference. So alhamdulillah. So let's stop there, brothers and sisters. We've been for an hour. Alhamdulillah. May Allah Ta'ala reward you. May Allah Ta'ala bless you. May Allah Ta'ala protect our youth. May Allah protect our children. And may Allah Ta'ala make us mentors for your children. Even if your children are grown and you have amazing children, they are righteous, they are intelligent, they are responsible, good citizens, but still make efforts to help others. Because all the children are our children. Treat every children as if they're yours. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. O our Lord, grant us spouses and children that bring tears of joy to our eyes and make us leaders of those who are reverent. ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وارحمهم كما ربونا صغارا. O our nurturing Master, forgive us and forgive our parents and have mercy on them as they showed us mercy when they reared us. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله. جزاكم الله خير. Have a blessed night. Assalamu alaikum.
When I was 20 years ago, I had a lecture by Yaya.
Oh, what's that?
Yaya, right? Yeah, I used to live in Westchester back then. He advised everyone that you need to live close to the mosque if you want to save your children. That actually helped me. Otherwise, the community can then
Assalamualaikum. Good to see you. Good to see you. So, we have more information. You get nothing about this program. You get definitely. What do you want to charge?
Inshallah, we'll try.
alaikum, Sister Payne. It's good to see you.
Salam alaikum. Nice to see you, you welcome. I'm calling outside.